the warehouse projects, we were asked to find the beautiful in the mundane. This project really resonated with me as it is related to the question of how to live with prejudice. So when I hear hateful words used against women, I often think of the children's rhyme about how sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt you. So, of course, the rhyme is silent about how this absence of pain will actually be achieved. So, to construct my project, I took hateful words about a woman and asked whether stripping the words of their context could help alleviate the pain. And I chose two mundane settings to put these words in. So, one setting represented a crisis moment when, on a really difficult day, my fridge broke and everything spilled on my kitchen floor. The other setting is related to one of my main coping mechanisms for pain, which is eating chocolate. So, as I was coping with pain, I started noticing that the different boxes, the chocolate boxes, have interesting aspects to explore. In particular, I was looking at the liners. Here's the box from the liner for a box of heart-shaped chocolates. And I thought, well, if you put a hateful word like combative and you put the heart-shaped liner over it, it starts to take on a different look and a different feel. So, the word maybe looks a little bit less aggressive. Here's a liner for a box of Mother's Day chocolates. You can see there's interesting sort of angles and the light is reflected in different ways. So I hope that you enjoy my project and that it helps you reflect on how words stripped of their context can be interpreted in different ways.
Drawing on my experiences gained over the last 12 months while I've been on the Warehouse Art School course, my project is very much about family, the gap between the generations, and the repeating patterns made by the circle of life on the timeline. I've been thinking about the feeling you get when you say something to someone and hearing the words as you speak them, you realise that you're using exactly the same words that were spoken to you many years earlier, perhaps by a mother, father, or other older family member. Trying to represent these thoughts artistically, I started working with footsteps and shadows, working with bandages, tightly glued over canvases, and representing the footsteps both as markings and as spaces on a bandaged canvas covered in ash. I then experimented with footsteps painted onto acrylic, which I could shine a light through to make shadows. The repeated binding of the canvases with bandages spoke to me both about the ties that bind the generation and our wish to always care for those around us. The project then led me to think about the garden in the context of family life and how it might be interesting to use plants to represent the circle of life patterns and the generation gap. I've been experimenting with cyanotype printing, which I particularly like as it relies on the sun to develop the chemicals and create the image. For me, it nicely incorporates the idea of time and uncertainty, as there's a lot of guesswork on how long to leave the images to form. I'm depicting the different stages of the flowers in my prints, from buds to flowers which are going over and starting to fall apart, and I've later added thread to some of my prints to accent the circle of life and the binding together of the different generations. It's going to be interesting to see where my project finally ends up.
So my work for the exhibition, Beside the Point, continues my interest into borders and thresholds, the moments of pausing before one's being one space and another, the pause of correction in speech or in movement, whether we cross a border or not, through our bodies and through our words, but also within our social etiquette and social boundaries that we've placed on ourselves, or we're in, or even our culture has placed upon us. Whether we're inside for protection and enclosed, or we're on the outside, whether we are waiting for new scenarios and possibilities, or even the possibility of exclusion or inclusion, depending on which side of that border we might find ourselves. Todd Miller has written a book called Journey to a World Without Borders, and he looks at the removal of systems and walls that have been placed between the US and the Mexican border. And this so challenged me and helped me sort of focus on, when I'm drawing, thinking about the placement of the eye and the placement of the wall that has been placed there, and requires us to make a call and a judgment on where we see ourselves. My work is absent of human form or even remnants of humans already been there. And hopefully I want to encourage the viewer to think about where they might place themselves, where is safe, where is unsafe. Would they be in or would they be out? And that's the question that I would like to ask in the end is, what would your world look like without borders?
So I guess most of my work tends to be quite autobiographical, particularly with regards to my experience with my mental health. I have a condition called borderline personality disorder, and I do find both the process of making the work is therapeutic for me, but it helps other people understand kind of what experiences I go through. Perhaps this body of work's changed a little. It's become a bit more broad in terms of the fact it's not just about me. It's about kind of all survivors. And really that just came out organically through the process of making. It wasn't just necessarily an intention that I thought about beforehand, which has been really nice. It's, to do something a bit different, a bit out there for me, and a bit more, just a bit more of a challenge, I suppose. It's very different from work I've made before, but also quite similar in the same way. You can kind of see that Frankie stamp on my work, which I'm very proud of. It's been a very therapeutic process for me, I think, actually, and I hope that it shows and other people can relate in a way to that.
So I decided, I suppose this whole project has been led by the colours of the veneer that I used to use when I did my marquetry, because they're such bright, beautiful colours, and which is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed doing the marquetry, because of the beautiful coloured veneer. This will be the first art project that I've done using my marquetry skills, my veneering skills. So veneer is very, very thin wood that you most furniture you get nowadays is veneered, but it used to come from Italy. It's pressure stained so that the dye goes all the way through. So it's about celebration of colour, and the form colour takes abstract form. It's all about shapes, colour, form. It is about materials. I do love materials. Right, we'll just leave it there like that. Instinct. I instinctively know where I want something to go. There. Then it has one that goes across there like that. And then it has one that goes behind, but I've got to cut out that rebate there. It's not a quick, if you can call it a process, it's not a quick process. I'm making everything up as I go along, and so it is just bedlam. It is chaotic mess. I do have a little idea. When I was making up these, see, it's got all these sort of like odd shapes. well, I've got boxes of offcuts that I don't like to throw away because I'm a bit of a hoarder. Because you never know when it's going to come in useful. But out of that mess, I managed to get things together.
Right, my name is Kaylin, and I'm a performer, and I work with time and space and the body and movement and props and sound. So time and space are my media, and energy, the use of energy, physical energy, and the relationship between the performing space and energy and the audience or the onlooker or the participant. Those are the things that really interest me. And I've discovered more of that by being on this course, where I chose it because it would make me go outside my comfort zone. I would experiment and be given permission to do that. And sometimes I've fallen flat on my face, and sometimes I've found whole new things. So this is my third year, and I've got so much from trying new things, even though the performance bit of me is the core that's come out. This is really in my heart. This is what I do. This is what I like doing, is to be in the here and now, to work with what's coming in an improvisatory style, and that's what I love.
Mm-hmm. My name's Richard Matthews. I'm an artist based in Oxfordshire. I work mainly with painting, sculpture, video, and performance art. In my practice, I'm currently exploring, I'm currently working through different ideas to do with geometry, architecture, and colour theory. There's a lot of colours, lines, and shapes in my work that can be read as abstract in my paintings. And I also am interested in the relationship of colours and how that reflects, my interest towards maybe a sort of landscape, for example, or a sort of something that's a bit more industrial. And sometimes it can be intuitive, but mainly I try to attach colours towards something that has an interest towards me. I think that recently I've been working between 2D and 3D based work. So a lot of my paintings that are working with shapes, I'm trying to integrate that into into the sort of sculptures that I'm working with, and also the relationship that has to the object, and also the relationship that has to the sort of space that it sits in. I think that is, that's currently what is holding my interest and making me want to kind of develop further in this sort of area of more of a sort of sculptural element. And I think for our end of year exhibition, you will see a lot of work that are to do with spatial value, and I'm trying to just really try something that I haven't really done much of before, I think.
Yes, coming to poetry has been a surprise this year, although it shouldn't have been, as I've always loved writing. I'm a very visual writer and love to build up layers of images in my poems. Each word is carefully chosen to bring more depth and meaning to the whole picture. I've also described writing poetry as being very like stone carving. When it comes to editing my work, it feels like carving. I take away what's unnecessary to leave the vital form. Reappropriating religious themes and forms for the telling of my own story has helped make sense of my past. I have left the unnecessary behind and taken with me what's vital. Metamorphosis. The pencil in my fingers is still, the drawings but a scribble of an unmade mind, the imaginings of an unborn child. My empty hands, free from stone dust, have swept away the feathers and tidied the sticky wax into a tin. The muscles in my arms hang loose when not leaning into inky plates. No damp cloths, no wet fingertips to pinch the corners of printed paper. Belatedly, the features of my face arrange themselves into that of a poet, greeted with astonishment in the mirror. Poised on the sofa, uncoiled on a sun lounger, every inch of me is involved. I sketch freely, sculpting words, pressing symbolism between pencil and paper with the abandon of a child in my derelict body.